Good afternoon. I'm Chris Garrett. I'm the CEO of the Saskatoon and Region Home Builders Association, and I'm thrilled to welcome you to the Saskatoon Star Phoenix virtual main stage for this year's virtual edition of Homestyle's Home and Renovation Show. I know this year is quite different, but the advantage to this kind of virtual show is that we can offer a larger variety. It lasts the entire month of March, and it's free. So, while we know it's different, I do want you to be reassured that even though I'm not wearing a mask, our entire team here is following COVID protocols. We have a very small team of ninjas behind the camera. They're all wearing masks, they're all safely distanced, and the speaker and I will maintain the appropriate amount of distance so that we can keep our conversation going and follow protocols. So, on to our guest speaker. This is the first session and for the entire month of March. And what's really exciting for Homestyles is you'll be able to tune in live every Saturday for a different expert. And so we're starting out today with Natasha. And Natasha is a professional organizer. I find that really cool. So she's been in business here locally for 10 years, and she works with a number of clients. So she works with people who are trying to downsize their home, people who are just trying to maintain that sanity with a young family and organizing their kitchen to their garage to their home office. And so we're really quite excited to present to you Natasha. And remember, as you're watching, you'll be able to type in your questions because we're going to have a live Q&A session after her presentation. And so you'll have the opportunity to ask your questions. And remember, Natasha has told me numerous times there's no judgment about anything when she walks into your home to help you. So ask any questions you like. And so, on to Natasha. I'm going to move over here and then you can take over this space. And the stage is yours.
Okay, thank you so much, Chris, for having me here today. I'm really excited. This has kind of been a year and a bit in the making because I was booked to present on the main stage last year, but unfortunately that didn't happen, so better late than never. So thanks for coming today. So today I'm going to talk about incorporating organization into your renovation plans. And I want to start out with the kitchen. Because this is the number one room in your home that needs the most planning for an efficient workspace and to ensure you have enough storage space for your needs, for your food and for all of your kitchen items. I would encourage you to think about what your needs are now and in the future as you plan your renovation of your kitchen. For example, growing families will need ample pantry space as their kids grow older and they start eating more food. Actually, in my own home, because of COVID, I think at the beginning, children were eating way more than usual because they were at home and they wanted snacks every 15 minutes. So we definitely have more food in our home now, and we're actually doubling our pantry space. So I'm really excited for that extra space. So I wanted to give you a few general tips on creating a highly organized kitchen. So number one, and this is my, anywhere in your home, I would suggest incorporating drawers as much as possible. So when you have drawers, it helps you become much more organized because when you open the drawer, you can see everything that's inside of it. And also you're not going to waste money by purchasing things that you already have. Food is not going to become expired because it's not going to get lost in the back of a shelf. So definitely as many drawers as possible. A lot of clients that I talk to, that's their number one complaint with their current kitchen is like, I wish I had more drawers. If you're doing kind of a mini renovation, if you can just incorporate pullouts into cabinets that you have, that's a good alternative to a drawer. The second option is when planning cabinetry, think about where you're going to store all of your items. So you want glassware, everyday dishes such as glasses, mugs, bowls, plates, close to the dishwasher and also close to the space where you use them. So you want your mugs close to your coffee machine or your coffee station, glasses near the refrigerator. So that just makes it easier for you when you're unloading your dishwasher. Another thing with current families is everybody likes to shop at Costco. So we buy items in bulk. So you might buy 12 cans of tomato sauce at one time. And I would suggest not storing that all in your upstairs kitchen pantry. If you have a secondary space which is outside of the kitchen or maybe in your basement storage area, so plan for that in your renovation to have kind of a secondary overflow area for storage. That could also include, you know, the waffle maker that you only use a couple of times a month, or oversized platters that you use for entertaining. So that could be stored there as well. And the last tip I have for the kitchen is to create a family control center. So in this space is where you can keep the family calendar, any papers that come into the house that need to be dressed, telephones, or sorry, iPhones can be plugged in there, computers, iPads, and that kind of thing. So those are kind of the important things in a kitchen. So let's move on to our next slide here. I entitled it Dreamy Pantries because everybody wants their pantry to look like this, and the majority of people do not have pantries that look like this. A few things that I like to incorporate into a perfect pantry would be shallow shelves, deeper shelves, and then pullouts or drawers. So this image that's closest to me, it's almost incorporating all of those items. So the only thing it's missing, I think some of the shelves are a little bit shallower, but the nice thing about having shallow shelves is not losing items. So you can have canisters that won't be lost in the back. Drawers, again, as I suggested earlier, you're just not going to lose things in there. So you can put things that look a little bit messy, like maybe if you don't want to put your pasta into canisters, you can have a drawer that's just dedicated to like pasta and rice. And then like the pullouts there, you could put chip bags or something like that in there. But this is kind of incorporating all the things that I want to see into a pantry. So I had to include a second image of pantries because they are really important in kitchens. The image farthest away from me, I just love that it's all shallow shelves. It's not holding a lot, but you're not going to lose anything in there. And again, what I suggested earlier is having that secondary pantry in a different location, or this might just be one part of their pantry. And the image closest to me is an option when you don't have that walk-in pantry space. So it's a big cabinet, but they have incorporated the pull-out drawers, so you're not going to lose anything. You're not going to be able to keep all of your bulk items here, so you will have to use that secondary space. Okay, so this is a really neat trend. The appliance barns are great for keeping the clutter off your counter space. And it's a great place to store all the items that you use on a daily basis, but you don't want it cluttering your counter. So your coffee machine, toasters, this one here has kind of a mixture of their coffee station and toaster, blender as well. So in those spaces, you definitely want to incorporate an electrical outlet, so you don't have to be stretching the cord across the kitchen or moving those appliances. I really like this one farthest away from me because they each actually have a little pull-out too that they slide out. So that makes it very efficient and very clean looking when you close up that barn door. Okay, so the next few slides are dedicated to drawers and kitchens. I've been saying this over and over again. They're just so important to have easy access to everything. And your kitchen becomes more practical and organized that way. So this image that's farthest away from me, the creative corners, I really like this option because I find that corner cabinet is so awkward, and the Lazy Susans I don't find are the best use of the space. You know, sometimes they're not super sturdy, and this is just a better use. So storing, I see in that middle cabinet there, they have like plastic kids containers. So there's cups and bowls and that kind of thing. So that would be a good option in those awkward kind of triangular spaces. But this is actually my favorite option here with the recycling, garbage, and compost. So there's actually 3 bins that are tucked in there. So that's actually taking up that entire corner space. And so I feel like that is really the best option for those corners. because a lot of times now people are incorporating recycling and garbage within their cabinetry, and so that would take up typically, you know, a big space like this, which could be used for something else. And in an awkward area, I think that is the best shape. Okay, and so this is just a downward image of one of those creative corners. I like the use of this space with the utensils because they kind of come in all shapes and sizes. And so you can kind of fit things in all the nooks and crannies there. Okay, this is something that's very underutilized, the toe kick drawer within kitchens. So there's that space under your cabinets that's really long and narrow and short. And I think it's a great space to utilize for those cookie sheets, the muffin tins, possibly parchment paper, saran wrap. And not every toe kick within your kitchen would be able to be used because there would be some electrical and plumbing down there. But I bet in one space, at least in your kitchen, you could incorporate this. And it's really a space that hasn't been utilized by many people, so it's something to think about. Okay, so the tech drawer, I think, is essential in our lives now, in our kitchens, because everything kind of comes back to the kitchen. Most people do plug in their phones and iPads and their laptops in the kitchen somewhere, and it really creates that cluttered feeling on top of the counter, especially with all the cords that are involved. So I love this option of a drawer. You know, you might have to have multiple drawers in your home, but everything is pretty flat now, so at least you could stack them up. But again, you would want to ensure that you have the outlet in the drawer, and it's just really nice to actually put all those devices out of sight to focus on things that are more important than that. Okay, this is my favorite type of drawer to create in kitchens. I really love spice drawers. So if you have an extra drawer, this is something that you could do this weekend in your own home. So if you have an extra drawer, I know sometimes drawer space is really tight, but it's really nice to have an organized spice drawer if you're a cook and you have lots of spices. So to create something like this, I mean, it's just really simple. You just want to take very good measurements. All of the measurements you need width, length, and height. And then go to a store to find the jars. And then labeling is the most important part. And you can organize it by alphabetical order, or you can do, you know, by different types of spices. So that's completely up to you. But that's another great way to use a drawer in your kitchen. Okay, so we're going to move on to, I think this is considered one of the most important spaces in the home for renovations is the bathrooms. So bathrooms and kitchens, that's what people say is sell houses when they're the nicest. So again, in the bathrooms, incorporating as many drawers as possible is really important. If you do have cabinetry, like in the far picture there, they have created a rack, a rolling rack system that it works around the plumbing, because that's actually the biggest issue in bathrooms is that plumbing to deal with. You know, I've worked with a lot of clients where we haven't installed that, but we've installed, you know, some bins and like plastic pullouts, and it's really difficult to get it right because there's so many measurements that you have to take for that. So if you can incorporate something like this, it's much, much better. Again, you're not going to lose all those products in the back if it's just a big open cabinet. Because if that was just a big open cabinet without even a shelf, you know, you wouldn't be able to use that vertical space, which organizers really like to use, is all the space that you have. And I really love this drawer too. This makes keeping your life and your bathroom organized so much easier because each of those hair appliances has a dedicated spot. It's very easy to put it back there, and that's what you need. It's just a really simple solution to organizing. So this obviously is just all hair stuff in that drawer. There's brushes, and I really like the separators because that keeps things from falling over on top of each other as well. Again, if you had an outlet incorporated into that drawer, that would be ideal as well. Okay, so this is another really pretty vanity that incorporates all the things that I like to talk about in bathrooms. So we have the 3 drawers in the middle. So ideally, if you have 3 different people in your home, each person could have a drawer, but somebody might take more drawers than others. And then also, they don't have drawers in the cabinets, but they have the pullouts. There is an electrical outlet incorporated as well. And often I would suggest having a linen closet that's within the bathroom, if possible, or just outside to hold on to those things like the big towels, all the excess products that people use, or maybe out of season things like sunscreen and bug spray and things like that. That could even be a place where medicine is kept, kind of up high if you have kids. So it's really nice to have that separate linen closet for all those items. Okay, so we're going to move on to bedrooms. This is actually an image from my own room. There's a little story that goes along with it. When my husband and I moved into our 1960s bungalow, we had no children and no plan for them in the future or near future. And we ended up changing it from a 3-bedroom to a 2-bedroom. So we eliminated one of the walls. And so then we both had our own closets, which was always important to us. The first child came along, she took the 2nd bedroom that was upstairs. And then our 2nd child, when he was going to arrive, we had to get a little bit creative because I didn't want to move anybody downstairs yet. So we decided to put that wall back up again, and we just took a little nook out of his room so we could incorporate a 2nd closet for my husband into our bedroom. And I was really concerned about losing the storage space because we just had so much more when we had that extra space. However, we got around that by getting this large king-size bed, which kind of fills up most of the room. But it has huge drawers under each side, so that basically the size of the king-size bed are the drawers. We had these side tables custom made, so we had access to the drawers in the base. I've seen clients before who aren't utilizing those drawers just because they have like a regular bedside table beside it. So that's just really defeats the purpose of having those drawers. So we have those as our bedside tables, and then we each have our own closet and then a small dresser in the room. So really the moral of the story is that smaller spaces doesn't mean that you have to lose in storage. You just have to get creative about it. Okay, so we're going to talk about closets, specifically in bedrooms. And these are smaller closets. They're not your big walk-in closets. But I just kind of wanted to show you how you can use a smaller space and really utilize all the space to maximize your storage. So in this image closest to me, I really like the fact that they have the 2 layers of hanging on the far side. That's really utilizing the space very well. And then they also have the option for the long hanging storage for long dresses. Underneath the dresses, there's drawers. They're not wasting those space at all. So, you know, they might have some shoes tucked in there or scarves. And then up top is all bulky sweaters. Maybe it's a summer, looks like a lot of summer dresses. So all of her seasonal clothes are up top. That's a really important point in our climate. We have 4 distinct seasons. And so rotating your clothes out is really important to create an organized space and one that's not overloaded with things, because sometimes when you have too many options, you just keep wearing the same thing out of the same corner. I also like the fact that this has drawers on the side and then some shelves as well. And the same goes for the far one. They're utilizing the space really well for their needs. There's drawers so they could maybe have underwear or bathing suits or things like that in there. And then they have some options for their shoes as well. Okay, so this is actually an image from one of my clients who had more shoes than coats. So This is actually their front closet as soon as you enter their home. They typically use their back door entry, so that's where they would keep their everyday coats and things. But they just had a really big shoe collection. So it worked best for them to create this closet that was just for shoes. And so it was really easy to install the two rails in the back, and it's adjustable, so it can change over time. They could install a rod at some point in time in there if they did want to hang coats. But really, you want to create something that's going to work for your family. Okay, so now we're going to get into storage spaces. I kind of referred to this earlier when I was talking about kitchens, having that secondary space, pantry space, or to store oversized kitchen items. But storage spaces are really important to have very good shelving. So if you get it custom made out of wood, or get really heavy duty metal shelving, either or is good as long as it fits into your space well, and it'll fit, you know, all the items that you want to store. Really, all that needs to be in storage spaces in a typical home would be, you know, seasonal decorations, larger cookware, out of season clothing, and keepsake boxes. I only say one per family, one per family member. But sometimes that's not always possible. Okay, so we're going to talk about mudrooms or entry closets. This is an image of a mudroom that I worked on. The before picture was just really overflowing with coats from all the seasons. So that's a really simple fix. It's just packing up those items that you're not wearing currently. Up top there, the little girls' out of season coats were stored up top there. And then we got some shoe racks that fit into the space really perfectly. If you put your shoes kind of this way and that way, they fit. You can fit an extra pair of shoes in. They had lots of shoes to store, and then they each had their own little cubby and own little baskets for, this was winter, so they had their winter gear, their toques and mitts and that kind of thing. And again, in regular closets, you would just rotate out the seasonal clothing. Maybe have hooks for younger children that are lower. Actually, in my house, which is a bungalow, my kids' winter, or all their coats go straight into their closet in their bedroom because it's really close to the front door, instead of cramming all of our stuff into the front closet that my husband and I share. And this is just an image of a really nice garage, nicely organized garage. You definitely want to use all your vertical space in a garage. They have installed shelving that's holding bins for sports gear. Maybe they store their seasonal decorations out there. Things that are hanging on the wall, such as ladders, all of their tools for gardening. So they can actually park in this garage, which is ideal in Saskatchewan in the wintertime. Okay, and this is like a little DIY that you could do on your own if you're a little bit handy. I've had this made several times for different clients. I actually have it at my house too. It's just a storage bin for all those odd garden implements that we use. It can also be used for bats or hockey sticks or things like that, depending on your family. But if you were to get one of those hook systems that go on the wall to hang this stuff, it would take about 3 or 4 times that space up. So just kind of shoving them all in that works really good. Okay, I think it's time for our question period. So I'm just going to move over here, and Chris will join me.
Thank you, everybody. And so now we're going to move to the part of the session with questions. So we have about 15 minutes that we can cover. Keep typing in those questions in the commentary section, and then we'll move to there. So let's go to the seating area. Really nice.
Yeah.
How about you just start with tips? Like, so when somebody is looking at renovating, I don't know, let's just say their kitchen? How do you even organize yourself to even start thinking about that?
Yeah, that's actually a really, really important part. You know, I've been talking to you guys about downsizing, like people associate downsizing with, you know, older people who are going to be moving.
Yeah.
But I think that we should all be kind of moving that way at all times, because we're bringing so much stuff into our home. Just really letting go of those things that you don't need anymore is really important. So for a kitchen renovation, you're going to have to pack up everything before you renovate your kitchen. So I really encourage to bring out all the like items, you know, all the utensils out of your utensil drawer, and see like if you actually need, you know, 6 wooden spoons. Maybe just hold on to 3 of your favorites, or 2, or 1. But yeah, that's a really good place to start, is just letting go of the things that you don't use, you don't like, that are broken to begin with. So
we already have a lot of questions coming in, so I'm going to pick one.
Great.
I'm working from home due to COVID. Do you have any advice about how to add in a workout area and work area that doesn't take over the existing space?
Okay. Yeah, that's been a challenge for a lot of people.
Yeah, no doubt.
So what I would suggest is maybe using a space such as like a spare room, because currently we can't really have people stay in our homes. So that might be a great place to temporarily have your office space.
Yeah.
So, you know, really settle in by getting a desk that works for you, a chair that's comfortable, maybe multiple screens if you need that for your work. And then that area could also be used as your fitness area. So if you have some weights, just to be able to store them in the closet in that room, for example, or a ball, which you might use as a chair as well. But I think if you can dedicate a space like that, maybe taking over a space that isn't utilized right now because of our current situation, that would probably be their best bet.
Yeah, I think you've mentioned that before in terms of thinking about something temporary or trying something out, and then you can always change it up again, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so I have another really great question. I have seen a lot of articles about renovating under a staircase for extra storage. Is this worth adding this into the renovation project, and what do you suggest storing in this extra space?
Yeah, I guess it depends if they want it, like some of these stairs are like open now and some are enclosed. So there's a few different things to consider. Like if you really need extra storage in your home, I would suggest having it closed in, but incorporating drawers again.
Love drawers.
So into the space. So at the bottom, like you could have a really big drawer, and then kind of they would get smaller as it goes up. So that's if you needed a lot of extra storage. And I mean, you can store, you know, anything in there. Some people like to create little play areas for their kids or their pets. Like they can have their own bedroom in there.
Okay, so these questions are actually really good. There's a lot of them. Is it worth dedicating a space in your kitchen for a bar area? And what are your thoughts on adding a bar fridge in a kitchen renovation?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you have the space,
a
second fridge is always nice, for whether it's for bar-related items or just, you know, whatever, any sort of drinks would be good. And depends on, like if you are planning on entertaining in the future too. But yeah, to hold on to the liquor bottles, I would certainly plan for a taller cabinet, because often those bottles are larger. You know, higher up if that's important to you in your home. But yeah, certainly.
Okay. Next question from online. What do you do with all of your kids' art projects and pictures that you want to keep?
That you want to keep. That's a good point.
Because you can't, this is my opinion, you just can't keep them all.
No.
There's like 3 coming home per day at some point.
Yes. So what I have done actually in my own home, because I have a 7 and 4-year-old, I've created like those little accordion file folders for them. You could get the larger ones if you want, like if you're more sentimental. But yeah, I just have the accordion file folders, and I've created for each year. So like preschool, kindergarten, grade 1, grade 2. And so there's really special items go in there. I decide on that. And then, you know, their school picture will go in there, their report card. So when they're older and they leave home, I'll just hand them this thing and they can...
And they put it in.
And they go away with it. But I can actually tell you, I work with young families and I work with seniors who are moving and downsizing. And whenever we come across their kids' stuff, and they live out of town especially, they give them a call and they say, oh, like I've got all this stuff for you. And they're like, no, I don't want it.
Oh,
So just really, edit that down and only keep the really special stuff.
So what about, because I've seen a lot of great projects where you create art out of what your kids are giving you, right? There's a space on the wall where you can put stuff.
Yeah, I would say I would dedicate an area in your home where you you hang that stuff up temporarily and then and rotate it out. So then you can keep the special things put in that folder. My son is 4 right now and he loves to draw, and there's actually things all over his room, and I just every once in a while I'll go take one off, put it in the recycle bin. So
that's right. Yes. Okay. Well, here's a question about downsizing. I'll just read it. My husband and I are empty nesters, and we would like to rearrange our space so that it works better for us. What advice do you have for all of the extra rooms and stuff that we have?
Yeah, I mean that goes back again to constantly downsizing, because you know they might not plan on moving in the near future, maybe not for a long time, but it's always nice to kind of keep on top of that a little bit. And with, you know, somebody who's lived in a home for many years, maybe raised a family there, but they're all gone. I always say start in those really easy areas, such as the storage room where things have just gone to die, basically. They just haven't looked in these boxes for years. And that's a good place to start because it's kind of easier to get rid of that. And then those rooms that their children may have, you know, lived in for many years, they could create, you know, a crafting room, a sewing room, maybe a woodworking space in those rooms. You know, keep at least one spare room for them when they come home to visit. But otherwise, really making that space their own.
Completely. Okay, so here's a question about an actual renovation project, which is great because, you know, in Saskatchewan we have that renovation tax credit. So I'll read it. We're finishing our basement. I have a weird dead space that I thought would be good to add built-ins. I'm thinking a place for wrapping paper, kids' toys, books, etc. What other areas could I add into this super sexy storage wall?
So I think they're asking what other storage maybe, or what else to store there potentially.
What else could you store there?
Yeah. I would say extra linens, games, family games. They could have an area for that. Puzzles if they still have DVDs. You know, I work with a lot of people that still have VHS because they're stuck on those Disney VHS tapes. So stuff like that you want access to, but doesn't need to be on a regular basis, or maybe, you know, out of season sports gear, that kind of thing could be stored in there. But yeah, certainly getting built-ins that work for exactly what they're looking for.
This is a question more about your business, so I think this is a really great time to answer what you do. Are you still taking on clients during the pandemic, and what does that look like for you?
Yes, actually I am. I've been working back again since June, so March, you know, about a year ago. I stopped working until the beginning of June. And yeah, I started back in June, and people were willing to have me in their home. I mean, whoever contacts me obviously are willing, because I am a hands-on organizer. There are virtual organizers. But often I'm working one-on-one with clients, and we're masked and sanitized and everything. But actually, you know, I found since the pandemic, I've been working a little bit more independently. People are giving me a little bit more guidance, or, you know, I'm working in situations where nobody's in the home anymore. So it's been kind of interesting that way.
Walk me through that. You're literally in the home, you're trying their home on and seeing how they live, or how does that work?
Yeah, I mean, I typically start with an initial consultation in their home because I need to see the space and what their issues are, so we kind of get a tour of, you know, the areas that they want help with. And then from that point we make a plan, or I create a plan, and then we book in a work session. So if I am working on one-on-one with you, you know, we might be in your storage room and you do want to get rid of some stuff, but I don't know exactly what you want to get rid of.
Yep.
So you'll be there making those decisions. I'm doing a lot of the grunt work, I guess. And then, so we're sorting through things, and then I'll create a system that makes sense to you. So it's really customized.
Yeah, completely.
Yeah.
What about the maintenance side of it, right? Because there's probably part of it where you have to create habits about putting things. I've heard you say everything has a home in a home. So do you have to do maintenance work or follow up, or what do you offer with that?
Yeah, sometimes I do actually. Like, I always ask people, you know, in that initial consultation, like, do you think if, you know, once we get everything sorted out and organized, you're going to be able to maintain it?
Right.
And everybody thinks they'll be able to. I mean, it makes it much, much easier.
Yeah.
But you do have to be dedicated to putting that thing back in its home. And everybody in the house has to be dedicated to
That's
that.
right.
Or else, you know, one person is doing it for everyone, and then they get tired of doing that. So sometimes that's when I get called in again.
That's kind of good. Okay. I have another question from online. I have a walk-in closet and I'm not utilizing the space well enough. Do you have any advice about how to maximize the use of the space and keep things organized?
Yes. I guess without seeing the closet, it's difficult to say real specifics, but the general tips for those closets are, you know, utilizing all of your space again vertically, you know, getting shoe shelves installed, or even just like shoe racks that you can buy at any store, so your shoes just aren't all over the floor. Rotating seasonal, or putting your seasonal items up higher, like maybe your bulky sweaters could go into some bins for the summer months, and you put that up on a high shelf. So just really having everything accessible that you're regularly using, maybe tucking away all those dresses and gowns that we're not wearing currently, or putting it in a secondary location. If you feel like your closet is overstuffed, then if you did have a secondary location, it might be nice to move some of it there as well.
Okay. So if you've moved into a new home or a newly renovated home, how do you maintain keeping yourself organized, right? Because it's nice when you just move in, everything's fresh. How do you maintain that?
Well, I mean, the most important thing is once you're unpacking, is really putting things in places that make sense to you and your family. You know, it's when I'm working with clients, often people say, "Oh, I'll just put this here for now." And for now is the thing I hate to hear the most, because that's not a solution.
Right.
You know, you want to create a space for it.
Yep.
And if you can't find a space for it, then maybe it's something that you don't need. But it really depends on your family. For example, you know, if you have young kids and you want them to be involved with setting the table, you might want to have plates and cups down lower so they can help out with that, or they can put stuff away from the dishwasher.
Yeah.
But yeah, it really needs to make sense right from the beginning. Labels always help. You can even label, you know, your cabinets inside, saying this is where the plates go, this is where the bowls go.
And especially, you can get funny with that too.
Yeah. Especially when you're in a new home, because you know, in a kitchen there's so many different items and you're just trying to find everything for the first little while, but labeling it will certainly help.
Okay. So spring's coming. Here's a question I have. Do you have a lot of inquiries in terms of, you know, you're trying to make your home larger, especially during this pandemic, right? So as soon as you can, you open those patio doors and you're living on your deck a little bit more. So do you have to organize out there? Like, what does that look like?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it depends how, you know, you close things up for the fall as well. Actually, my husband and I, in the fall and the spring, we always kind of do a big cleanup of the garage because we store a lot of our items in the garage. So yeah, certainly cleaning off like the deck before you bring out all the patio furniture. If there's anything that's broken or needs to be fixed, taking care of that or getting rid of it. There's no need to store things that you just know you won't use. I mean, some people feel like they need to, but it's not necessary.
So I guess my next question fits with that in terms of when you look at pictures, there's a lot of great examples and articles about, you know, minimalism, and we do have a lot of stuff, but the other part of me is wondering is that realistic, and do people ask for that, and can you actually get to that point where you don't have stuff?
You can.
Is it realistic?
But I think for some people it is. But a lot of people it isn't. You know, most of my clients, I mean, the number one issue is they just have too much.
Yeah.
And people aren't letting go of things when they should. I mean, if you're really on top of it and, you know, you get rid of things that you've outgrown, or that you're not, you know, if you're not doing that hobby or craft anymore, it certainly helps. But people typically, you know, have challenges letting go of those things. And that's when I get called in to help out. But yeah, I think if you lived on your own and you liked that idea of minimalism, it's certainly possible.
Okay, so last question. If you have 3 things to leave the audience with before they call you, or before they get going on their own organization project, what is that?
Yeah, I mean, what we were just talking about is really taking a look around and determining if all this stuff is things that you need.
Yep.
I mean, most of the time it's making people feel really bogged down, because when I work with clients, I always take away anything that they don't want anymore. So if they're wanting to donate it, I take it away. Or if there's like 5 bags of recycling, I'll take that away, because they feel so much lighter, like literally lighter, after they let go of that stuff. So, and right now is the perfect time, because people are kind of motivated to do that kind of stuff in the spring. So that's number 1. Number 2 is kind of part of that organizing process is bringing all your like items together and containing them. And you don't necessarily need to go out and buy, you know, the expensive containers. You can get them relatively inexpensive.
Right.
But you know, in your pantry, if you can contain all of your different types of rice or your different types of pasta, it kind of makes things easier, so you're not losing things if you put it there every time. And the third thing is, if you need help, call a professional organizer.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So that's a good way to end. I just want to say thank you to everybody who's watching. This was our first session on the Saskatoon Star Phoenix virtual main stage. And so just remember, every Saturday we'll have a different expert here. I want to thank you, Natasha, for spending time and being our first professional on stage. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I want to leave it to you, because you have a really great Instagram page, and people can reach out to you that way.
Yes. You can go to Home Free Organizing. My website is homefreeorganizing.ca. I have a Facebook page. So, yeah.
Great. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you to everybody else. Have a great day.